Welcome to the For the Love of the Game podcast with your host, Jefferson Belfort and Brian Hernandez. This is episode 57. Brian, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. One, we are back, and I feel like every single time we start one of these, we're like, yeah, we're back. But now, actually, the NBA season ended, so now it makes a lot easier now that things are about to start back up to actually be more consistent with stuff. A lot of really fun stuff to be talking about. A lot of stuff has actually surprisingly happened during this off season, so I am pretty pumped today. Excited to be with you, Jeff, today. So, how are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm excited too, man. It's you know the summer becomes so hard with the lack of sports, not
Yeah.
just the NBA, but when you get to this point of the year, it's like almost preseason. NFL's just started.
Mm-hmm.
Start to feel good. You start to feel good. So I'm pretty happy about where we are. Can't wait to unpack on some of the things that are happening. As we know now, the NBA is it's a year round sport now, man. There's always something to see. There's always something to watch. There's always some news to think about. So I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just a good time. And especially too, we have the new NBA 2K that came out. We can probably talk about this off podcast, but I want to get your thoughts on that because I haven't played it as much, but I played a little bit. I think it's pretty cool so far. But yeah, we can get into it all, like the actual topics.
So the topics for today will be, talking about Giannis's impending future and how that looks for the Bucks, and then we'll move on to the FIBA World Cup and discuss the Team USA's performance within it, and then we'll have a discussion about some of the biggest storylines, the in-season tournaments, and how that plays a part into this upcoming season and some of the important games slated on the schedule as well. So, Brian, are you ready?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
All right, perfect.
All right. So,
All right.
for our first topic, we have the Giannis recently went on a podcast, and throughout the entire summer, he's just been kind of leaving like little breadcrumb trails of like little things like, hey, maybe it actually is a possibility that I do leave. Now, Giannis's contract situation is actually he's playing this year for Milwaukee unless they trade him and all this stuff. But his contract goes up until 2025. So he has at least another 2 years, including this year. And then the 2025-2026 season, he has a player option. So if anything's going to happen, especially with signing, that'll be then. But there's always the trade route, which is probably more likely that I'd imagine. So for the quote that actually happened where Giannis is on this podcast, he said, and I'll just actually read the quote. He said, at the end of the day, if the Milwaukee Bucks organization, which is the same I say for every single year I've been with the Bucks, as long as we're in it for a championship, as long as nobody's comfortable, as long as everyone's sacrificing the same amount of time and blood and sweat that I've sacrificed for this city to win a championship, we are all good. The moment I feel like people are complacent, they're okay. And they're okay, like, because at the end of the day, blah, blah, blah. So he says all this stuff, and then at the end of it, he says, I'm a Milwaukee Buck, but most importantly, I'm a winner. I want to win. I have to do what it takes for whatever me to win a championship. And if there's a better situation for me to win the Larry O'Brien, I have to take that better situation. So this is the actual meat and potatoes of it because, like we said, he's kind of been saying a pretty consistent thing throughout this whole offseason. And it seems like there actually is a potential that Giannis could actually be with another team, which is crazy because he is one of the best players in the league, no matter how much you actually like him or not, Jeff. No? But Jeff, want to get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this whole Giannis situation and potential sweepstakes?
I think that first thing to keep in mind is the original report that surfaced was actually something that was reported in, I believe, 2021 was the
Mhm.
first reports. When he last had extension conversation is just to provide a little bit more context. The reason why he was on this podcast gave the way to him obviously speaking about it in current tense, right?
Mhm.
This it was shortly right after they won the championship. He was interviewed. He was asked like, "Will he be here forever?" And he spoke on how much he loves Milwaukee, but he has to
Yeah.
be realistic about like his goals, what he wants to achieve. What does that mean in 2 years? Will that mean that I'm still here? Who knows? But as of right now, I'm giving Milwaukee my all. My family's giving him their all. Loves to be here. And whenever I deem that I'm not seeing everyone's giving it its all, maybe I'll move on. Is what stemmed this whole conversation.
Mhm.
Um, for a little bit of time now, we've been hearing rumbles of there's a team emerging to really become a hub for a free agent or trade destinations. And that team happens to be your favorite team, Brian, the New York Knicks,
Does
right? So a
does.
lot of this seems like destined for a collision course type of conversation. I think it's very important to see how these first 25 games look
Hmm.
at the beginning of the season. Let's be honest. The only reason why Giannis's Bucks teams work is because of how uber talented he is. Middleton is now, um, I wouldn't say regressing because it's not enough of a runway to see how he has looked after his injury. He's just been dealing with a lot last year, but he doesn't look like the same player when he's
Yeah.
out there though, and you can't expect Drew Holiday to be that second player. He was never meant to be that second player. Drew Holiday fits very well into that third player, that third best player role in the current league, how the NBA is constituted and how you want to build a team. Like he fits that role perfectly. But asking him to be two might be too much for him.
Yep.
So I think Giannis takes a look at what that looks like. I think Giannis is the type of guy that would actually tell the team because he's always so forthright, right? Like he's always speaking his mind. He's always trying to be as um, honest about what he's reporting on or what he's talking about and being transparent like that in a world or in a world, let alone the league, where transparency is hard to come by. It is refreshing when you see him just speak from a place of honesty and truly weighing his opinions out. Sometimes I do think there's some things he say that's really corny, but nevertheless, he does mean what he says, and he typically is speaking from a place that he does not care how it's perceived. He
Yep.
knows what he meant.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting because, I mean, like you said, it. I think this Milwaukee Bucks situation is going to end eventually. Like, I think the owner even kind of saw it a little bit where if the listeners aren't aware, the one of the, I don't know if he's a majority stake or whatever he owns
It was
some.
a majority. Yep.
Yeah, he's a majority stake owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, and as of last year, he recently sold his stake, kind of maybe potentially showing like he's. And there's so many things up in the air with contract situations and all that, especially with the new CBA, going to be a lot harder for to have a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. So it really kind of shows like this thing is going to end eventually. And does Giannis see the writing on the wall? Is it is he going to be like I want to be super loyal, and this is where I love. This is where I always is. And even in the quotes he's saying, like he's mentioned, Jeff, he's super. I love Milwaukee. I do everything for Milwaukee. This is where I want to be. But still, at the end of the day, if things aren't going to work out, then I have to do what's best for me. Um, you mentioned with the Knicks, it's a little interesting because for the longest time, I actually always felt like I think the Knicks have 0% chance of ever getting Giannis because we all know how much Giannis loves his family and he's big with his brothers and all that. And I know for a long time ago, I think the Knicks actually drafted his brother Thanasis, and that whole situation didn't work out. Didn't seem to work out the greatest. And so I was always like, I think he hates the Knicks. I don't think he ever go there. Recently, Thanasis had a quote, or he said something somewhere where he was like, "Yeah, this last summer it was really hard for me. I almost did not re-sign with Milwaukee, and I was just this close to signing with the Knicks again." And I was like, "Where did this come from?" And apparently, like Knicks beat reporters were like, "This is not true," but he's saying this, so like it's either one, it actually was true, and the Knicks are trying to position themselves for Giannis and be like, "Yo, we'll put your brothers here too, get all of them." It's exactly how Milwaukee's doing it right now, or I don't know. So to me now, there's more like a possibility of like maybe this does happen, but where I ended is at the end of the day, I know at least for the Knicks situation, they are always tied to every single star, and it never actually ends up happening where they get somebody. So I won't believe anything till it happens, but it does leave it a little bit more up in the air, more fun. I would you see Milwaukee in a situation this year trading Giannis? Like, if is there any world you'll see them ever this year trading Giannis?
It has to get well. To answer that, I want to go back in time a little bit.
Cool.
Um, I we always got to remember the NBA is a business, right? So
Yep.
you brought up the owner of the Bucks, Mark Lassery, was the one that sold his stake, right? Um, there's a lot of times where the business comes in comes in the way or is at the sacrifice of the product, right? And I remember in the past, like just I'm a Nets fan, so I look up into these things. But taking a look at like what happened with the Nets around that time, they made their runs and they thought they were a competitive team and they could continue to be a competitive team in the early 2000s. Is around that same time their ownership took advantage of selling their stake, and that's what started the movement towards going towards Brooklyn when Jay-Z was a minority owner and the new ownership came into place and to steer the Nets towards moving towards New York. But in that time, you're in a you're in an influx of cash. You're thinking about your owner doesn't want to sell anything. He doesn't. I mean, trade anyone. He doesn't want to trade anyone to add on salary. So like you keep all of those things in mind when owner is out the door and another one's walking in. Is what is that temperament going to be like with this new owner? The infamous one in that case, when I talk about the Nets, is everyone always brings up Kyle Korver being traded for a copier machine was
Mm,
around that time.
nah, I forgot about that. That was a good one.
So you have that. You have the Nets not re-signing a guy like Kenyon Martin around that time as well, letting him walk, trading pieces that were like integral to what they're doing. That's where we're going to have to watch. I don't think that's going to happen in season,
Yep.
right? That's more of like what's going to happen in the off season. But I will say, for a new ownership group to come in and have that quiet of an off season after the fact,
Hmm.
when we have we have what we see out west with the Phoenix Suns and their new ownership in Matt Ishbia making a big splash right away because he wanted people to know. I think I steer a little bit closer to the middle when I'm like, I don't want an owner to overspend just because he wants to flex, he has money or he has the willingness to build a winner. Neither do I want an owner that doesn't. So I think Giannis is squarely looking at what this new ownership is going to do, and that's everything that he's saying. I think has nothing to do with the actual construction of the team. It's what is the vision, and he does not see the vision yet from what ownership wants yet, and he wants
Yeah.
that to be clear. So if it's clear, if they sit down before the season and they let Giannis know like this is where we're heading towards, because they don't have picks. Like think about all the teams that competed in the last 5 years, five
Hmm.
6 years: Lakers, Nets, Bucks, Clippers, all of those guys can kiss their picks
Yeah.
goodbye because none of them have picks. Like
Yeah.
like they mortgaged it for the time being, right? Some got a little bit more successful than the other, but uh, yeah, they all mortgaged their futures. So in a state where now you don't have those picks, it is a real. You have to sit down with Giannis. Giannis might have to be honest with you and say it might be better if you trade me than you wait and let me walk.
Yeah. It No, I think I definitely agree. And I find it interesting you mentioned about like how quiet their offseason is, and like I had to look at it. It was literally just re-signing Chris Middleton, re-signing Brooke Lopez, which is actually pretty big, but like they're all getting older. The I guess their biggest signing as well is like you picked up Malik Beasley, who was like pretty terrible last season. And then as well, you picked up Robin Lopez, Brooke Lopez's brother. Maybe that's how you actually got Brooke Lopez to resign. Maybe there's some backdoor deal kind of there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not inspiring whatsoever. Yeah, it should be an interesting season to see what happens. There could be some frustrations, or I can easily see it where they also are a title favorite for the entire season. Do they actually win or not? Who knows? There's a lot of competition out there, but we shall see. Do you want to move on to our next topic?
Yes. Yes. The next topic is the FIBA World Cup. I believe it was headlined in three countries: the Philippines, Japan, and I'm sorry because I can't remember the third one, but but it was a very interesting, fun uh, tournament to see. But as we all knew, and a lot of people joked about, is that the NBA. I mean, the United States did not send all of the best of their players to this year, and we saw that. We knew that, but before we even go into recapping anything, I just have to get this off my chest.
Oh, word.
Is from the get go of when they started training for it and everything, I knew, I knew Jaron Jackson was not going to be a good selection on this team, man. Like, it's so funny how easy, and I might go on a little rant right here, but uh, it's so easy how he gets saved, quote unquote,
Mm.
saved in the system that the Memphis Grizzlies have, and in my mind, it's the reason why he won. He won
Defensive
Defensive Player
player.
of the Year. He is he has great perimeter defense, right? Like he's not as flexible in that sense to play perimeter and also inside. He's just really good inside, right? And he was just doing astronomical numbers on blocks, right? So that imposes people from going into paint. But as we have learned about international play, is that international play is far more physical about how they get to the games, right? Um, these issues were appeared really glaring for the U.S. And like these are all the teams that they played in this tournament. It was New Zealand, it was Greece, it was Jordan. it was Montenegro, it was Lithuania, it was Italy, it was Germany, and then it was Canada, right? And the biggest issue I would say, Brian, was clearly that role
Mm.
was the center role. There was a lot of talk about it. There was a lot of talk about how he had like team low like rebounds. He was fouling
Yeah.
out every game. Like it was like this dude never played basketball before. It seemed like, right, like it's like the Space Jam basketball where they
Yeah.
take all the talent. That's what it felt like seeing
The
him out there.
Monstars took his talent.
Exactly. So I know I went on that little thing about him, but from what you saw, did you see any like, or even what you saw through like stats and what you saw, like anything pop out for you, Brian? Before I go back,
No, I definitely saw a lot of the Jaren Jackson stuff, and just how, I mean, it really kind of goes back to the roster that they brought. Like, it was never really that good. I will say, Austin Reeves, that man's impressive. He is still like, you can see this guy is actually like a legit NBA player. I was very impressed by Austin Reeves the entire time. He's probably my biggest shocker. But yeah, like bringing in the roster, like as much as I love someone like Josh Hart and everything, like this man is when we talk about like bringing in USA basketball kind of guys, probably not someone you really deserve. Or there's so many players that are better than him. Essentially, he's a great team player. He's going to do the things that it takes to actually get wins. But I feel like for Team USA basketball, you need some more stars. But like there really wasn't anyone that was that crazy. I feel like, so now I didn't watch as many of the games as you did. I feel like Brandon Ingram was pretty like disappointing. I feel like he's going to be one of the better players, but like I never really saw much from him. Um, and then yeah, as you know, Anthony Edwards is him.
no, there was clear standouts on this team, right? For me, I think there's four names that stood out. As you mentioned, it was Anthony Edwards, Austin Reeves, Paolo, and then lastly it was Bridges.
Yep.
Bridges had, and it was a little bit later in the tournament where Bridges finally like was like picking up, but it's something that I've seen with him in season as well. I think Bridges got to call his own shot too, man. Like he has to ask for that ball, like or demand that ball at that time. And that was, I will say, I did think that was one of the reasons why the U.S. wound up losing in that game to Germany, where Mikal Bridges in the first half, I believe, had 15, shooting 6 for 6. Like he was just going off, and he received minimal touches in the second half. You know, a little bit is like trying to share the wealth in time, but I think at that moment, especially in these type of games, you stick with who's out, who's
Yeah.
hot. Um, uh, those were the four, like I said, that by in my mind, more people that didn't know these guys are now getting to see them on a grander stage to say like, oh, I was unfamiliar with their game. Now I know them. Guys that I think just stayed like where we expected or like didn't really change that much was like seeing like I don't think Jalen Brunson did a bad job at the point guard
No, I agree.
job for USA. I think he. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. One other person that was a standout, but he was coming off the bench. It was Halliburton.
Yeah.
Um, I think that was a good decision having him come off the bench because he just brought a good energy. The dimes he was throwing, man, like it was him and Paulo was throwing so many alleys in those games. So his stock, in my mind, went up a little bit too. We already think that the Pacers are going to be a little bit more formidable this year. It's great to see him play like that, right? But as I was mentioning, guys like Jalen Brunson, as you mentioned, Josh Hart, we know who they were. They didn't really like wow us in a different way. Um, Guys like Bi in the beginning seemed disappointing, but as soon as they inserted him into that second team, like he looked a little bit more natural.
Mm.
I think a lot of it was that he was playing alongside a guy like Anthony Edwards that demands the ball in a different way, and Mikal Bridges done that before, right?
Yeah.
He's deferred to the better offensive threat. Bi had that a little bit with LeBron. He didn't never really had that to the same extent. Zion to a degree, but
They
how long
don't. He
has he
doesn't
played?
play.
Exactly.
They don't play
If
together
he's not
enough.
out, exactly. If he's not out, then Zion's out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like those guys were really stayed in where I expected them. Guys like Walker Kessler too. I don't understand why he was on the team, but like
Yeah.
he stayed where I expected him. But the guys that disappointed me the most, I already told you, it's by far takes the cake is Jaren Jackson. I just think that was an ill-advised like decision, not understanding a little bit of like not understanding his game per se and how it would play a part in international play. So I hope they reconsider like when we get to this next year
Mm.
in the same position and we're fielding out a team. Um, Another disappointing player. I wouldn't say he's 100% a disappointment on like what he was doing out there, but there was definitely times where he came up really. It, it's just someone I already mentioned, but there was times where he came up small in my mind, and it was Halliburton, honestly. And those late game moments when they gave him the nod over Jalen
Mm.
Brunson with Germany, he made some key mistakes that just solidified the U.S.'s fate. You know, the U.S. were down by, I believe they were down by as close to 20 points. Um, and they fought their way all the way through the second half to get back 1 point away from winning it. And, it just didn't go their way. And then it was good to see also the team. It was also good to see the team against Canada, but sadly, it was not good enough to see
Mm.
the team lose against Canada. That was something that really did upset me. But I still do think they have something to be proud of with like these young guys. They now
Yeah.
have that international play experience. Typically, we talked about this before. You see guys once they do that, they have like a different swagger in the league after
Oh
that.
yeah.
So I hope that translates for all of these guys that took the challenge, except for Jaren Jackson, to play in for this team. I saw a press conference of him like pouting about it too,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
but yeah,
I wonder if they're going. You mentioned the swagger part. Like, I wonder if they're actually going to have that since like, because usually they always win. So yeah, they have some swagger. Like,
yeah,
yeah, we're that good. No, they severely like underperformed. Didn't even get third place and lost to Canada. So I wonder if it would be the same. Another thing I was thinking of, I hear. I don't know if it's Windhorse or a lot of people, NBA people actually talk about like when it comes to USA basketball, this is usually where like these guys are deciding that, hey, when our contracts run up, we're going to team up kind of thing. I wonder if that even happens here as well, just because of like they didn't really be successful. These guys were successful. So like there's a lot of like little fun storyline things that I wonder what's going to happen in years future from this actual USA basketball. You already hear LeBron talking about like, hey, I actually want to come back when we were playing in Paris and we're going to have all these other people and it's a bunch of big name NBA stars. And if this is going to be like a redeem team kind of thing.
I'm,
I don't know. What
I'm
do you
not
think?
for it at
You're
all.
not
I'm
for
not
it?
for it at all, Brian. Honestly, I think what pissed what pissed me off the most about this situation with the USA team is we do have young talent that we could have thrown out there.
Yeah.
Where's Jason Tatum? Where's
Yeah.
Jalen Brown? Where's Donovan Mitchell? These are the guys that should be going to this. Like, think about
Oh,
the
yeah.
impact those guys would have with these guys that we're talking about. We're not, uh, no disrespect to Mikal Bridges, but we're not looking at Mikal Bridges to be the one, to be the wing, their number one
Yeah.
wing, if Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum is on that team, right? So I understand the prioritization towards your body now, the prioritization towards your team now. Like, there's a lot more to lose for NBA players, but there's so much more to gain in playing in these type of environments.
Yeah.
And not only just for your own personal brand, for the game to evolve, for USA to stay on top of the map as that dominant basketball, uh, like the dominant basketball team, right? Um, you mentioned the LeBron thing. The reason why I hate that so much is because why are we going backwards? These guys already served their time. They've done they've done what they needed. What are we talking about in age when these guys get there? 35? 35 for Steph, 35 for
Mm-hmm.
KD, 40 for LeBron. Like, I don't want to, they're great. Don't get me wrong, but like that should not be headlining your Team USA team. Guys are that much uh, older than the rest of the team. It should be the young, prominent, upcoming players, and then sprinkle in some of the
Yeah.
guys like a LeBron in there. You know,
Yeah, I definitely agree in the sense of we need to start bringing in some more of these young bloods in a sense of yeah, you need a lot of these younger guys in there. I remember listening to Tyrese Halliburton on the Old Man the Three podcast before they actually went to USA basketball and they were actually talking about it, and it seemed like there was a lot of like pride there of like, we are the young guys, we are the next generation, we have to kind of keep this up going forward. And it is kind of like it is a little weird to seeing like LeBron and all these other guys being like, we're coming back. We're coming out of retirement. Like we weren't doing this anymore, but we're coming out of retirement. We gotta win it all. This is the only way it's gonna happen. I wonder.
there was.
Yeah,
And I will keep on saying this. There was only one defensive game like flaw in their game plan, and it was that they did not field the right type of big.
yeah,
Like the Lithuania had Valanciunas. Valanciunas looked like Valanciunas from 10 years ago in international play, right? Like he's was abusing Jaron Jackson. And then similarly, you had that with Dice in Germany. So like the only two games that they struggled with guys that were big. Like,
yeah,
and they did not have any answer for that. So like I think it was so simple. It was so easy to see how much like if you made the right decisions on who should have came on the big side, it would have made a difference because who was the other big? It was him, it was Walker Kessler, and then it was Bobby Portis.
yeah,
Like who would have thought those was going to be the three
yeah.
big? You know?
Are there any good younger kind of centers that they can bring? I feel like the center position is always so tough, and as we see, like the top of the top is Jokic and Embiid, and they're not USA born. The only other one I'm looking at and trying to do a quick Google search is like Karl Anthony Towns, but he plays for Dominican Republic,
For
even though
Dominican
he's
Republic,
yeah,
yeah.
even though he's US born. So like,
Yeah.
what who do they have?
So So for me, I think they should have went young on that as well, right?
Mm,
Um,
maybe that's why
and
they walk with
and
Kessler.
Exactly. So I didn't hate that Walker Kessler was chosen because I still think that he outperformed Jaren Jackson of how he
Hmm.
played, right? And because of expectations, right? Like, Jaren Jackson definitely gonna have a different expectation than Walker Kessler on that team. But for me, like that was another thing that I was going to talk about in the state of the USA team. Is it's starting to become very, very glaring that the best players in the league are starting to not be guys that are
Oh yeah.
born here. And yes, the league is still majority U.S. Based players, but the best of those players are really starting to look more international than it is looking U.S. based. So that's where I guess you're right. Like I may not have the answer, but the answer was not Jaren Jackson. That's all I can
The
say.
it looks like the best answer is probably Bam Adebayo.
And he was too cute for it this year,
Yeah.
man. He was in the because he went to the Olympics and when they won, right?
Hmm.
And even in the Olympics, they limited some of the guys that like went.
Yeah.
Like uh, it's funny, like LeBron's talking about like a last dance. You didn't go to the last Olympics, you know. It was KD, it was Dame that was headlining that. Like, and
Yeah.
they still won. They still won with just those two guys, but like those were the guys that were highlighting it. So I do find it just so funny to think that they want to do this now. I
Yeah.
think it was just a glory points type stuff, and I don't believe anything that has time to pass that LeBron says
Agreed.
anymore. Because I'm still waiting for that dunk contest, man.
Uh, no, I really don't think. Or I'd be surprised if by the next time when Paris comes and they get to play again, that they actually show up and that they
You know,
actually will participate. There's too many things that one could happen that maybe injury wise or whatever, but like I don't know. I don't really see it too much as of now. When people see USA lose, they get up in arms and they're like, "Yeah, you know what? I should have been there. I'm ready to play next time." And then years pass and they're like, "Meh,
nah,
nah, I'm good."
I'm good.
All right, you want to move on to the next topic?
Yep, for sure. Um, Remind me what is next. We are
So
talking
yeah,
about storylines
yeah. So we got
that
some storylines in the in-season tournament.
in season tournament. Okay, so I guess because the in season tournament will be the more complex thing to
Yep.
explain, I will go with that first. Um, So, listeners, if you haven't heard about the in-season tournament or learned about exactly how this is going to play, I will give you a little breakdown of what it's going to look like. So, in this inaugural year of doing the in-season tournament, it's going to start on November the 3rd. From that, group plays start. Group play will be defined by 6 different groups: Group A, B, C, and the West, and then respectively the same in the Eastern Conference. Those teams were, I believe, just chosen by random and how they selected to place them together. Um, from there, as they start the group play, which commences on November the 28th, they will have 4 designated games against the other 5. There's 5 teams in each group, so there will be 4 teams that you'll be playing in each group. So you'll have 4 designated games against these teams, and then from there you'll play these individual teams 2 times at home, 2 times on the road, right? In that time span. And moving on from the group play, you move on into the knockout rounds. The knockout rounds are obviously decided by who has the top seeds in each of these group plays, and then just to add to spice it up a little bit, the NBA added 2 wild cards. So these two teams from each conference are the best record in group play, but finished second in group play. So those teams will be enlisted into a single elimination games where they'll play the quarterfinals in the respective locations. And then the championship will be decided in Las Vegas for the NBA Cup. Um, Brian, as of now hearing
Yeah.
the whole breakdown of what this is going to look like, does this sound exciting and fresh and new and something that you're looking forward to in this season?
No, no, it just does not. Um, I am a little bit curious as to why they decided to do this because at the end of the day, cool, we have this tournament. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. The game should be more competitive. I'm assuming that's why they kind of want to do this, get some more competition out there. But the prize only affects the players because what the prize is, what it seems to be, is each player is going to make 500K, which is fantastic and all. But as a viewer, I don't care. I do not care a single bit. As a player, I wonder how much they're actually motivated by this 500K. I'm sure they probably are. Um,
For
yeah,
I would say like for the guys closer to the end of the bench,
yeah,
this makes sense. You're playing for those guys. If you're thinking about it as like a star player, that's where the star players are important,
yeah,
are integral to how this goes. So Adam Silver is no stranger to taking a look at the sport of soccer and seeing how it's an international game and how it's respected and how it's able to continuously put out a product that is important at any point of the year, right?
yeah.
So this is the inception of these thoughts. Like that's where I think the
Mm,
this in season tournament has been created, right? But it is imperative, like I said, the players have to make this mean something. If the
yeah,
players do not make this mean something, no one will care. Absolutely no one. And it probably will take some time before even with the players caring, for us to truly care so much about it. For that, I guess like because what are you really playing for? Bragging rights. That's
yeah,
it. Is bragging rights is you're known to be the best early in the season team, right?
yeah,
and, and then you go on. But I do see if it is embraced by the players, how it can help a team that you did not expect to get to that point to have a run in the season, right?
yeah,
Because like the momentum of that could be very, very um driving, right? Like it could just start like snowballing into a great season just because of how you play this. So there's going to be regular season games like combed in between these games. So that is going to be interesting to see how the players try to flip that switch in their minds when they're doing
yeah,
that. Then, like keeping in mind that this is an in-season game, this is not, and like what does that mean for me, and what does that mean for my brand? You
yeah.
know,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. They're like, all right, Tuesday night, I'm versing the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it's a normal game. And then Thursday, right? But oh, this game actually means more because this is actually going for the tournament.
exactly.
You're definitely right on the sense of the players have to kind of make this mean something because I'm fearful of this of the All Star game kind of scenario where like, yeah, we won the All Star game. Yeah, I'm the team that won, and like we see no one cares a single bit. I couldn't even name you who's on the team or which team even won last year. Like, did not care a single bit. Um, does this actually add any more games into the season? other than
No,
maybe
it
just a
does.
championship
So,
game or just nothing?
so it will be factored into your regular season
82
record,
games.
right?
Got it.
Yeah. So I think now that's where it feels weird about like if you get to the semifinals and you get to the finals of this thing, is that you probably are playing more games. But for group play, those are factored into your regular season. So
Mm,
I'm assuming, yes, you're right, is that they will play, if you get to that point of the knockout rounds, you are playing additional games in
mm.
the season.
Yeah,
And
that makes sense.
how happy are some players about that? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, who knows? And then I'd imagine as an owner, I'd love this because now I can market these in-season tournament games. This is a tournament game. Now you have to pay more money for the seat, and you gotta pay more money to get in
Exactly.
here, and we can pack more seats and more excitement. Um, Meanwhile, like I wonder how the fans are gonna perceive it. As of now, I am not excited in the least bit. But if social media starts popping off and players start playing like even more intense, and it feels like a playoff game, all right, I can be excited. I can be excited. I can be swayed to watch. But as of right now, I don't care.
Well, you know what, Brian? That's a pretty good segue because it still keeps up with the in-season tournament, but also plays a part into the storylines and
Mm,
some games that we should be looking out for at this time. So, the number one overall pick, want a Wemby, is slated to be in the same group as the Thunder.
ooh,
And a lot of people are circling that already as one of like an important game to see how Chet looks, see how
yeah,
Wemby looks, because who knows, this could be not a dynasty, a rivalry that we see for the next upcoming years. Obviously, wish the best for both players. We don't know what the
yeah.
future will entail for them, but hey, man, I guess that's where this becomes more important. Or like, this is how you make this tournament important by rivalries like these starting, and see how both of these guys play against each other in that settings.
Yeah, that's a pretty fun one. I think everyone's eyes are on Wemby and want to see how they kind of or how Wemby actually is and how good the hype is. We'll see how that actually ends up. I think Chet's really fun to watch. So you just got two over 7 foot guys who play pretty much the same. That's a fun game. That's a fun game.
It truly will be. And that's just with the storyline too, just going into it. His storyline is gonna be a lot of like Victor's, is gonna be a lot of like trying to see what he achieves in this first year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure people are going to set some unreal benchmarks, and there's gonna be someone that says he needs to be an all star, he needs to be an All NBA. Like, there's gonna be people that say some crazy stuff like that. But what I just want to see out of him, in my mind, and uh, what uh, would be a successful season for me to from him, is him get out on the court, stay healthy.
Yep.
You definitely want to see him stay healthy, and truly just show his game at this stage. Like, I don't need them to improve upon their record that much because they still don't have a lot. They're slated to cut our wave
Yeah.
campaign. I saw as well recently, so they're not in the mindset of thinking that they're going to win anytime soon. This is a time to let one be like naturally just like feel comfortable in the NBA game and get his bearings, start to become more of someone that you could see fitting right into this system.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are going to be thinking about wanting to see him put up like 50 points just because like there's all the hype to LeBron and he's the greatest prospect since LeBron and this and that. And
Isn't that? isn't that always said, man?
It is. It's
There's
literally
like
said
10
every single
people
time.
now.
Yeah, it's said every single time. There is the what was it? Oh, the whole even. I'm sure like now people are much more intrigued by European players because of how good every single non-US player has kind of been, and so now we have another one coming in. Top prospects, guy's been talked about all the time. There's a lot of expectations. I'm a little bit more kind of weary. All I really want to see is like how impactful he's going to be on the defensive end of like this is where his bread and butter is supposed to be. Like I don't really care about him shooting threes and doing dunking and all that other stuff. It's going to be fun. He's going to miss a lot. He's going to make a lot. But I just want to see like how does he defend against some of these new guys or actual NBA level talent. That's what I want to see,
Yeah.
and I want to see how those long
And
arms work.
I wonder how his game's going to translate with this uber athleticism
Yeah.
on in this leagues, right? I'm not saying there's not athleticism in Euro League, like, but it's a little bit more brute than it's finesse, and the
Yep.
NBA is completely finesse. So I wonder, like, does he have any hiccups with that right away? Does that draw fouls? Does that get him into foul trouble? Like when he's defending, and what does the switching world look like to him when he's stuck in the perimeter and has to
Hmm.
get danced, because they're starting the season against Dallas, and I know they're going to be fishing for a switch. Luca or Kyrie's going to fish for a switch just to see what they could show him as a
Yeah.
welcome to the
Yeah.
NBA there.
That's a good one. Um, Another, at least a matchup that I'm excited to see is, well, I was excited to see that the Knicks and Miami are actually in the same bucket, whatever you want to call it, just because I feel like there was like a little bit of not necessarily a rivalry, but like some more. The games got a little spicy and they're fun, and the
Yeah.
teams came back relatively the same. I know Miami lost a little bit with Gabe Vincent and Max Struess, so it'll be interesting to see how they come up this year. It'll also be interesting just to see about the whole if the Dame stuff comes into fruition of Miami getting Dame or not. I don't know.
Have you have you heard about the 2K having like a whole like spiel about him being in Miami for
No,
to the game?
no.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
the script was
that's a
leaked.
thing on Twitter. Yeah, the script was leaked. It was definitely leaked. So
Wow.
that was pretty interesting.
Wow. These
And
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off
No, no,
on
you're
this
good.
one, but yeah, I that was actually going to be a storyline that I was going to say. See how
Mm.
this plays out. How awkward is it going to be if we see Dame Lillard in training camp with the Blazers and just have to push through? There's a part of me that feels like this plays out like how it played out for Kobe Bryant when he was on the Lakers. But I don't think that the. But then there's the part of me that goes like, I don't think that the Portland's management front office is that good, that savvy to convince him otherwise.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he gets what he wants. That's the biggest thing. Like, is he wants Miami? He doesn't want anything else. But I personally don't think that Portland is wrong for
Yeah.
saying they don't want what Miami's giving them. If someone's giving you trash and you could be offered something good, why would you just keep on saying, you know what, man, because this guy was with me this long time, I'm gonna take trash because he was with me.
Yeah. And like
That makes no
we
sense.
always talk about how the NBA is a business and this is like the
Mhm.
worst business move you can do, and you're doing it because he was your friend kind of thing. And like we saw kind of like the Lakers did this with Kobe. Kobe's slightly different. And even then they were like, man,
Mhm.
what a mistake, helping out Kobe in this situation and this and that. Like it's it's not smart for a team like Portland who's just trying to get better. That's all they're trying to do. And trading one of your superstars is like one of the best things you can do in the sense, and especially when you're a losing team, just because like look at all the assets you're gonna get, you get to rebuild and all the other stuff, and you get to move forward. But letting him go, someone like Dame's caliber for trash is so bad. Like pennies on the dollar, like that is so bad. That's such a bad mistake. But like that's gonna be a lot of fun to see if Dame actually doesn't show up and he tries to pull a Ben Simmons with Philly.
I wonder who gets bittered first in that situation. Is it more of that the fans start to turn on Dame, or is it Dame that just gets very, very assertive of we need to get this done? Like what is going to be the next thing that turns now?
Yeah,
It's hard to tell because it's been quiet for a little bit now.
it's been quiet, but like it just kind of goes away from the man has zero leverage and he's just like, nope, I signed this contract and I'm just not going to fulfill it unless I get what I want. And it's like I understand like when someone like KD or even Kyrie start doing this because they're at the end of their contract, but this man just signed an extension. He's
Exactly.
like there's zero leverage. Like I got my money. I wanted to stay here so I can get paid, but as soon as I got that, get me out. Like it just
Exactly.
it's not
But
fair.
that's the advent of what we're gonna start seeing, man. Like I
Yeah,
think we've seen the last of impactful free agencies.
agreed.
Players now want to decide their situations by trade because they know that that's the best way for them to recuperate the most amount of money. And that's why we saw a pedestrian free agency. A lot of these guys are picking up, like you mentioned, and we see with Bradley Beal, we see it now with Dame. We're going to see it with some other guys. There's the talk of Luca will be the first $80 million guy in the league. So you think about that and you realize these guys are going to keep on doing this.
Yep.
There's always going to be a new loophole when the NBA tries to fix something, right? And this is
Oh yeah.
the new one, right? At first, when we looked at like the LeBron era when Miami, it was teaming up together. It was being able to strategically work with players, put them in the same team, and foregoing the salary cap and just getting minimum guys, right? Then the shift went on to LeBron still did it with Cleveland, but he didn't expect to see a Warriors team naturally become that
Yeah.
good. And then, ironically, people get, I don't know if we should be more mad about the Warriors for doing it or Kevin Durant for doing it. I think it is more should be Kevin Durant. It should not be we're thinking about the Warriors because the Warriors did exactly what
Oh yeah.
a good franchise should have put themselves in position to. They
100%.
had young guys that they developed themselves that weren't sold high on that they built. They built them from the ground up to make them look like this. So, with that in mind, that's what afforded them, besides the TV deal that opened that year. Just everything fell into place for them to have a player like that. So, in that sense, I you just keep on seeing the change of the guard of the game from there, and then now we see this as we're mentioning. It's more of like less of a free agency oriented, bringing guys in. It's more like I've been with you for X amount of years. Now I'm
Yeah.
up for the super max. I'm gonna sign my super max. Guess what? Jalen Brown can ask for a trade next year. Guess what? A guy like Luca can ask for a trade after he signs his extension. These guys are going to go that way, and I don't know why we didn't talk about the biggest one, and I guess it's a good segue or
Hmm.
transition to another storyline. Is James Harden? James
Yep.
Harden fragrantly signed the player option just so that he could get traded and recuperate some of the money or the value he thinks that he's owed, right? Um, I think that this situation is a lot different than like even when Kyrie signed what what he signed last year. There was nothing there for Kyrie, right?
Yeah.
And there was nothing there equally for James Harden as well too. But in that sense, it was because of a completely different reasoning. And he it was either trade me or sign me. But in this case, James Harden has reinvented it. He said, I'm
Yeah.
going to sign, and then you need to trade me. And
Yeah.
this is not going to open the season up very well for the Sixers. You mentioned the Ben Simmons thing. We might be seeing a repeat of the Ben Simmons thing. We saw what he said in China. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
Daryl Morey's a liar. He doesn't want to work with a guy like this. He will never play for a team that Daryl Morey, is leading. So something's got to give. The owner is either firing Daryl Morey before the season starts, or James Harden is going to make this really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to get very uncomfortable. Um, yeah, it's interesting hearing like James Harden pretty much saying like, "Hey, we made a deal," kind of like a backhand kind of deal, like not on the actual paperwork, but we he gave me his word that he's going to do a certain thing, and he's not going to do it anymore. So I'm done. I'm not playing anymore, and it's so funny. And then you have it's so interesting because Embiid already went through this once with Ben Simmons. Now he gets to do it again with now James Harden. So is it a are these guys the problem? Or is some of the leadership the problem? Or is Embiid the problem? Like it's really interesting to see what's gonna happen. They just hired a new coach. They just hired a new coach
There's
in
two. A good
Nick
coach,
Nurse.
too.
Great coach. And all this drama is happening. Not a great start for them. I wonder what's gonna happen. I love seeing what I do like seeing is them standing pat and wanting to keep Tyrese Maxey. I really like Tyrese Maxey on the team, but they're already like, we're not trading him. So interesting. That's one of the fun ones. You know what I actually do want to see as a storyline, or I have as one of my storylines, is I'm very intrigued. Still, after all this time, I'm still intrigued about Ben Simmons. We've talked about it. We've name dropped him a million times. I. It seemed last year was a huge just mental thing, and I wonder if it's still there or not. I feel like our answers are going to be answered very fast in the first week or so of this new net season. But I'm interested to see, is there any sort of return of Ben Simmons of old? And if there is, how do the Nets actually end up looking? And how do they end up competing?
Uh, if there's a Ben Simmons of old, it's only because I think he wants to get some money back, and he knows that he might very well be on his last contract as an NBA player, large NBA contract,
Yeah.
right? Um, you know, it's encouraging what you're hearing, but I just can't. You heard the wolf cry. The girl cry wolf so many times. You start to, not look anymore, right? Or the boy that cried wolf.
Yeah.
You stop to look anymore, right? That's where it's starting to get with Ben Simmons, man. Like, it's hard to convince yourself or get excited because you just don't know. But like, think about how he is honestly the X factor of the Nets. Like,
Yep.
if you really think about it, because what he does or what he's able to provide to you if he gets back to that player lifts you from being a Nets team that you're looking at playing to a top four team in the East, right? Because he just has that
Yep.
talent. Um, I love what they did about putting the right pieces around this team, got a lot younger, got a lot faster, got a lot of defensive oriented over the summer with some of the people that they chose, and they picked a lot of reclamation projects. I'm
Yeah.
going to be honest. They picked up guys like Harry Giles. They picked up guys like Lonnie Walker. They picked up guys like Dennis Smith, right? All these guys have something to prove. That's the type of people that Ben Simmons needs to be around. Guys
Yeah.
with chips on their shoulders because he if they got a chip on their shoulders, this dude got a boulder at this point. You know,
Yeah.
like he just needs to be around people like this that are gonna push him.
Yeah.
And I would love to see it because obviously he plays for my team. I just don't know if that's what we're gonna see. And it'll be
Yeah.
great to see how the season starts if that is the case.
Yeah, it's I love the he has a boulder on his shoulders cuz like all those guys are like maybe had a flash, a very short flash of greatness or not greatness, but like some nice stuff to see in the NBA, especially like Dennis Smith, but like and Terry Giles really never really done anything, but they're just trying to prove like yes, I do deserve to be here. Ben Simmons has been like pretty close to the top. Like Ben Simmons has been one of the best players in the league just in general, and he fell from grace. It's hard to like continue watching him and not believe it's still in there just because like I've seen it a bunch of times. I've seen how impactful he can be, and then you watch one or two Twitter videos from the summer and he's doing some fadeaway shots and it's like it looks good. If he takes it, like I don't know, something could be there. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
It truly shall be. I guess another good storyline, and I think this is my last one, is and I think you could combine the both of them. Is are we at the end of the road for the dynasty and the Warriors, and are we
Mm,
at the end of the road of what we currently know the Boston Celtics to be? Two teams that
mm,
were in the finals a year ago, um, not last year, but the year previous. Um, Two teams that are in a little bit of a place of uncertainty for like the first time in a long time, right? Like, yes, obviously they had the time when Clay was injured and Draymond was injured and they were in influx and they weren't that good at that
yep.
time, right? But this is different. This is now we have all these guys, they're getting older. What does life like this look like now for these guys? They bring in a guy in Chris Paul, and you realize all of what they did to put themselves in a position while Clay was gone to bring in that youth work. And I think the best way to answer that or to talk about that is typically in anything in life, it's hard to have two separate goals
Yep.
working at the same time. You can't be competing for a championship and also trying to groom the next stars on your team at the same time. It's very difficult. And they met that fate. We believe that it could be them that would do it because there's the Warriors, like they've been sound every part of this dynasty, But at this point, I think they've made the decision that they're going to continue towards win now,
Yeah.
and then they'll deal with what they deal with after this is over, which I don't think is something wrong, but I do think that I would not trade a guy even with bad chemistry with Draymond, Jordan Poole for an aging Chris Paul.
Yeah, the aging Chris Paul thing is pretty interesting. I wonder how it just works out. I feel like Chris Paul is a guy that can play pretty seamless with a lot of players. Yeah, it feels kind of like a similar to like a last dance kind of thing. Like they know they're going for it. I liked your point about how it's hard to foster the young guys while still trying to win a championship because they need playing time. Like you need to play those young guys. Yeah, they can get all the practice. It's great to be around. It's a great learning lesson for them to be around greatness in Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Like that's an invaluable learning experience. But
Yeah.
you still got to play in games. Like you got to get that the reps in and all that. So yeah, maybe they're just kind of waiting the wing and just trying to prop them up to be the next. But like right now, it's all about winning. That's a fun one. The I the Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum thing. A year ago, if you asked me if they're going to split up, I would have said yes. As of right now, I don't know why, but I feel like no. And maybe once we see them play again, some stuff is going to happen. Uh, we do know that Boston got Porzingis now. They got rid of Marcus Smart, who was supposedly a big heart for the team. That is very interesting. I wonder how Porzingis is going to work out. Didn't he already get kind of injured or something? I feel like I saw something. He's injured.
Uh, was it? I think it was something he sat. He decided to sit out of playing in the FIBA
Yeah.
because of, yeah, some lingering injury. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a
Um,
little something. He was good in Washington. He was very productive. He was a good player, but
the
that's a little
reason why
scary.
I say, or why I question, it was a foot injury. He had
Mm,
plantar fasciitis. Um, the reason why I am concerned about it, it's not really the pairing anymore. It's more of like where where can we improve upon? Like
mm,
sometimes you see a trade like this when you move a guy like Marcus Smart on some teams where it's like kind of like Thanos when he got the stone where he gave up Gamora. Like you had to sacrifice everything, right? And sometimes you give up your heart and soul of your team and a chance to find a piece that will win you a championship. Just don't feel like that.
does not.
Like Porzingis does not feel like that type of guy that's going to help him in that sense. I just don't understand honestly how he's going to fit in with them as well. With so Rob is going to still play that five, right?
Yeah.
Porzingis is stretch four. He's sitting. Is he sitting in the corner? Isn't that what he was complaining about with Luka Doncic like
Yeah.
of 3 years ago? Like, and these guys, they're not always ISO, but these guys are going to dribble the ball, dribble the
Oh,
air
yeah.
out the ball. And with no traditional point guard, and Marcus Smart wasn't a traditional point guard either. But like, if we're thinking about it realistically, a team that would have served to actually take a look at Chris Paul would have been the Celtics. That would have been the trade
Yeah.
that made more sense than um, trading away Marcus Smart in my mind. I think you bump because Marcus Smart plays a lot more like a two in my mind.
Yeah.
It's just
Agreed.
his size. Um, yeah, he plays as a two better. You push up Jalen to the three, and then you push up Tatum to the four, and then you keep Rob Williams. I thought that that would be a formidable lineup for like just cleaning up the offense with these
Oh,
guys
yeah.
because the offense just gets into lulls with this guy. But I do also think that the reason why they did this is that they knew that they created a log jam the with the fact that they brought in two guys that are essentially the same player, and they both ebb and flow almost at the same times. And Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White, like
Yeah.
they're almost the same player, and then you have Marcus Smart as well. Like that made it a little awkward. So I think that they just saved Marcus Smart the time in that mindset, like dropping him because I don't think he was the starter, but that was out of respect more than
Yeah.
it was like putting these guys above him.
No, it's true. It's yeah, it's interesting even like you mentioned with someone like Malcolm Brogdon. He's always kind of been more of a score first kind of point guard.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, I think they're going to be one of the better teams. I don't know if they're good enough to win a championship. I was just re-looking at their roster. Like, I like it a lot. I really do like
Mhm.
it. I just feel like against some of like the top of the top, they they feel like they're missing something, and it definitely is that point guard spot. My last storyline that I'm interested in. It's not a very good team, but I am interested in the Charlotte Hornets. And I feel like they're going to be pretty fun this year because you think about it, they're getting back Miles Bridges. He was one of their best players. I don't think they had to give him that much money or something. I don't remember. They're getting back Miles Bridges. You got LaMelo. You got Brandon Miller. That's a pretty fun competitive team. Even when it was just LaMelo and Miles Bridges, that was very. It wasn't top of the line, but it was like top of the ends of the spectrum of play-in and potentially missing the play-in. Like that was, or like 6 seed missing the play-in. That was like a very fun team, and I think they were really good. Now they have some better talent in there as well. It could be a little something. It could be a little something. Is it gonna be? I'm not saying championship, but they can make some potential noise if everyone stays healthy. I'm interested to see how Miles Bridges is with a year off of basketball. If he has any new things in his game, if he's been working on his game. That's a fun team. Are you as excited for the Charlotte Hornets as I am?
I think bringing back talent always is helpful. I, they're going to be an exciting team. A healthy Lamelo will always allow for that to be right. So I do agree they could be in for a chance at competing for a playoff spot. Maturity is a big thing with this team. They just got to find that voice in the room that helps them with that. But if they're able to find that, I think that they can be a team that's competing for one of those lower seeded playoff spots. Um, to piggyback off that, another team that's in the lower ranks that I think is going to be very important watch for the league and could very well decide where the championship sways at the end of the season is a team like the Bulls and seeing what the Bulls will decide by the trade deadline. Will they be a team that is selling or will they be a team that is buying? I don't think they're going to be a team that is buying.
They got nothing to
I
buy with.
first exactly.
You got
So
50
like
cents to buy.
with that in mind, I feel for Chicago Bulls fan. They gave up a lot to get to this team, and just the most unluckiest, one of the most unluckiest NBA players, man, and what's happening in
Oh yeah.
Lonzo. But I just like a company that's hemorrhaging money, I'm trying to stop it as soon as possible. So
Yeah.
if it was me, I would have already traded some of the pieces in Chicago and just commence the rebuild. Try to recuperate some draft compensation. Strike it while it's hot, especially with a guy like Zach. He might be the easier to trade and bigger package, but DeMar DeRozan is going to be a lot harder if you keep on waiting.
Yep.
But there is going to be teams that truly do need the assistance of a DeMar DeRozan on their roster.
Yeah,
Lakers will
exactly. Yeah.
obviously be one of those teams calling.
Oh yeah.
We know that.
Oh yeah. It's so you have Zach LaVine as a guy that a lot of teams are actually kind of interested in, but for some reason Boston's valuing him so high and asking for an unreasonable asking price that no team even wants to call up for him anymore. It really, I feel like the ownership of the team is slacking. I think everyone saw this happening. Not Lonzo getting injured, not all these problems, but they went all in, and we repeatedly say this. They went all in on a B squad, and it makes no sense to give up all their pieces to be good, not great, but good. It makes no sense. And now that years have passed, how do these people they got to get out of there. How do these people have jobs? Got to get rid of the GM. Got to get rid of all these people. It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. And actually, when they brought in, I think they brought in their GM from the Nuggets organization. So
Yeah.
when he made these splashes, like in bringing in these guys, a lot of people were praising them for the moves that they made.
I don't know
And
how.
look at the run that they did take in the beginning of that first
Yeah.
season, right? They were number one in the East for some time. Then Lonzo got hurt, and from there, it's just been shit.
Yeah. I don't,
So
they were exciting, and that's the thing. They were always going to be an exciting team. DeMar DeRozan definitely helped that a ton because he was spectacular that first year. But still, I don't know. If this wasn't, they didn't trade for a superstar. They traded for all these other guys, and then DeMar DeRozan got close to. He became maybe a pseudo superstar for a little bit. But yeah, tough. But it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. I definitely agree with your point on them actually could dictate the next team that could potentially win a super or a championship or just affect a lot of stuff. Because once they get rid of their assets and get rid of their players, wherever they go to, is going to be pretty dangerous in my opinion. That's all I got. Do you want to call it an episode?
I think that makes a lot of sense, Brian.
Word.
It's great to be back. It's great to see the season on the horizon. It's great for you guys to continue to listen to us. We are going to continue to push out content and relevant content about the NBA, and this is the start of our third season, Brian. Cheers to
Yeah.
that.
Cheers to
Um,
that. Wow.
only becoming more knowledgeable as the day about the NBA and speaking to it. And I enjoy you being my co-host. I hope you enjoyed me being your
Oh
co-host.
yeah.
And let's look forward to another great year this year.
Yeah, for sure. And to all the listeners, thank you for listening. Really, it means a lot when we see that kind of engagement that we do on our videos, and then as well, like don't forget subscribe, like, comment, let us know what you guys actually want to see. That's always like if there's any specific topics you guys want to see us cover, that is always a huge help. And yeah, man, it's crazy. I didn't even think about that. Third season that we're covering right now. That's pretty fun. And I feel like this is a good season. I don't know who's gonna win the championship coming from the start. And it's gonna be a repeat. Bruce Brown, was pretty impactful. He's not there anymore. You got Phoenix looking pretty crazy, but how does it actually look? We're gonna cover all this. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah,
Hey
Jeff, it's
man,
been good.
has been good. I guess since you brought it up,
Yep.
my early prediction.
Ooh.
Hmm, early prediction. I guess I'm gonna put and this is just for fun at this point. I'm gonna put the Mavs and
Whoa.
I'm gonna put the Celtics. And
Ah.
I got the Celtics. I got the
Okay.
Celtics winning in six.
The Mavs. That is crazy. I want to talk about this more later, but we'll leave it there. That's an episode 57.
Peace.